good evening, everyone. It is 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and today is Educative Tuesday. So, pretty much with Educative Tuesday, what I like to do is have a special guest come on and chat with us a little bit about something that is educative. So, today we're going to have someone really amazing. I can't wait for you guys to meet her. She works at LaSalle University and also is the founder of College Optimize. And we're going to be talking today about navigating through college and graduating. So, as you all know, I typically talk about navigating through the college admissions process. But today, we're going to talk about what exactly you do once you're in. So, I see that we have our special guest here. So, let me go ahead and add her right now.
Hi.
Good evening. How are you?
Good. How are you? I was trying
I'm
to.
well.
Can you hear me okay? Do I need a microphone?
No, I can hear you well.
Okay. I adjusted for just me, so I guess I need to readjust. All right, let me stand up. Because sitting down, you only see half of me, so let me
You
stand
only
up.
see, well, you're probably only going to see half you anyway, but I mean, if your chair can raise up a little bit, that can be fine. I don't want you to stand the whole time unless
It's okay. It's like teaching. I'm used to it.
that's fine. I'm going to be sitting for this. How's your evening going so far?
It is going well. My son is not happy because I kicked him out of his game playing space, but
Uh-oh.
it's okay.
Uh-oh. We
It
need
just
to
happened.
hurry up and make this happen before it cuts too much into his time.
He'll be okay.
Do you guys have a lot of snow where you're at?
OMG, we had to go out and clean out the car. And yeah, unfortunately, though, we do have to go to work tomorrow. So we did get 2 snow days off, but things are back to normal tomorrow. So yeah, I don't know what the inches, but yeah, it was a lot of snow.
Okay. Okay. I haven't been out today, but I know classes started 2 hours late, so they were delayed today. And yesterday they still had class. So
Oh yeah, I think the era of snow days is gone. Like we still had to work remotely and they still had school remotely. So
right,
there was no snow day, but
right,
we couldn't get out. So
right. And I think because of the pandemic and we've already transitioned to online learning, it's like there's really no excuse except for the possibility of the storm knocking out the internet and then so many people definitely going to be home because of the storm and the bad weather. That could have been some issues, but it seemed to work out well on my end.
yeah.
Yep. So I see we have a few people here. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to just introduce myself and then I will let you talk a little bit about your daytime and then your evening time, I guess I would say. So all of you that are on here that don't know who I am, my name is Tori Brown and I am the founder and educational consultant for EduConfidence Consulting. And what I primarily do is to help students navigate successfully through the college admissions process. And what that typically looks like is setting you up for SAT or ACT scores, making sure that you have the proper training and tutoring for that, making sure that you have an appropriate and really good college list for, let's say, your top 5 or 6 colleges that you're interested in applying for. Also assisting you with the financial aid process, which can be very, very tedious. And more importantly, applying for scholarships. That is what we're really trying to focus on now, is applying for scholarships, because as we know, we don't want to have all of that student debt at the end. So to try to avoid that, we need to apply for scholarships, and you can actually do that your freshman year in high school. You don't need to wait to your junior year, and you don't need to wait for your senior year to go ahead and do that. So I have, let's see, I've been in higher education for about 15 years now. And I currently work at Virginia Tech University doing international and graduate student advising. So that is my daytime job, and EduConfidence is like my nighttime job. So I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself.
So, hi everyone. My name is Phoenix Fraser Badmus. And since I'm going to do my daytime and my nighttime job, I'll start off with my daytime job. So, I have also been in higher ed for a number of years, in education for 20 years. I started out as a high school teacher and then transitioned to higher ed. So, during my daytime job, I work at LaSalle University, which is a private Catholic university here in Philadelphia, and I manage their academic support services. So, that's freshman advising, tutoring, the Writing Center, coaching, all the services that help students to actually get to graduation. So that's what I do during my daytime. I love what I do so much that I decided to offer my services to students who don't necessarily have opportunities to get additional support, because not all colleges have the support services that all students need to be successful. So I decided to not just limit my services to the wonderful students at my university. I decided to expand it and like share some inside scoop about what's really necessary in order to be successful in college. So that's why I started College Optimized, which is my company. I also have a podcast called Office Hours with the College Success Professor. If you look for me online, you'll find me under the College Success Professor, not Phoenix. So definitely, I hope you all connect with me online. But I have some great information to share with you also. If you have questions, let me know. I'm happy. I can answer whether you're a graduate student, adult student, traditional student. You got questions, I can definitely help you.
Right. And I think what we're doing tonight is just not for students that are currently enrolled, but actually for students that are going through the college admissions process before they actually get into school, to actually have a plan and an idea as to what things will look like once they're in. Because I think a lot of students typically just think about getting in, right? But they don't think about the after part of when they're actually enrolled and what is my next step. That's the biggest thing, is what do I do? Okay, I know what major I'm going to pursue typically. Now that I'm taking the classes, do I get any additional help besides having an academic advisor? You know, should I join an academic or social organization that's based upon my major? All these different things students may think about or may not think about. And that's why we have you here to be able to kind of give them some type of guidance and direction as to what the appropriate next steps would be. So, and just to let you know about LaSalle University, major fan. I am a Catholic private school girl, so I can definitely relate to the environment. I went to private Catholic elementary school, high school, and then ended up graduating from a private Catholic college. So I'm definitely for their education. So let's go ahead and start. And the first thing that I want to do is I want to talk about really quick on my end, students applying for college. Typically, they know what college they want to go to. They know what major they want to be in. Sometimes not even the major, they just know the job that they want to have. But a lot of times they don't realize that there are so many different majors and minors that can help them lead to that job instead of that traditional major that they're typically thinking of. And a lot of times I tell students, when it comes to jobs and when it comes to majors, don't always get stuck on the title, the name of it, but actually look at the description, look at the syllabus to see what you're learning, look at the classes that you'll be taking. Even with the jobs, don't just look at the title of the job, because that can mean nothing. Like for me, I'll use myself as a perfect example. When I say advisor, the only thing people think of is, oh, you advise. Oh, that's it. You help students enroll into classes. It's far more beyond that. Far more beyond that. The duties that I have is so many of them. But if that was the case, I would have a long title, right? And we can't do that. So I always try to make sure that they really, do their research and just don't focus on the title, but also really discuss with them, well, what are your plans for when you get into school? Once you're admitted, what are your plans? Do you have an idea as to what you'll do next? Do you think you may possibly want to work? Do you think you may want to start right off with an internship? And typically they never know, right? And so this is another reason why we should always start the research and the planning and the readiness part way in advance. Not your senior year, but probably your freshman year. So you have a really good plan that is reasonable that you can actually stick with. It doesn't make sense to have a plan that you don't think you're really going to be able to stick with and follow through. So tell me, once a student submits their application, they realize that, okay, I'm going to LaSalle University. Financial aid, they apply for that. They did the FAFSA. They paid their registration fee. And they are going to start classes. They have their first semester classes lined up for them. What is the next step?
All right. I'm got my clipboard here because I'm writing down some of the things that I want to talk about. And I think it's so important, Tori, for the work that you do with helping getting students into their desired school. But too often students think that's where the work ends, and it's not, because you still need to keep doing work on planning on what are you going to do when you are out of college, even, though you're a freshman. So I wrote a couple of notes on what you were saying. So with regard to financial aid, if your financial aid package is in, and if you still have a balance, because sometimes there's a gap between what your financial aid covers and, with the still remaining balances. So the first thing you should do is, if you have a balance, you need to figure out how you're going to pay that balance. Because what they don't tell you is that if you don't pay your balance, you won't be able to register for that next semester. So if you have a $10,000 balance, $5,000 balance, whatever your balance is, you need to get on a payment plan. Most schools have a payment plan, but figure out, call auntie, call uncle, call cousin, whoever, however you're going to get that bill paid, make sure you have a plan for that. That's one. The other thing that you mentioned was working. Are you going to work? Definitely, if you can secure an on-campus job, it definitely helps with your engagement and connection with the university. If back to financial aid, if you have work study, most campus offices want to have you on work study, because that means the federal government is paying your salary and not necessarily their budget is paying your salary. So if you have a work study job, start looking to what campus offices are hiring work study students. Like I said, at LaSalle, I work in the academic support services office. So we hire students who are tutors. You're probably not going to get a tutoring job your first year, but definitely there are on-campus jobs that you can definitely pursue and figure out what you can do with that. And then your other point that you mentioned, thinking that you're going to go into a specific job or career path. Many majors don't have a specific career path in mind. Like, what was your major? Undergrad?
My major was humanities.
All right. There's no job that's like, okay, you're going to be a humanitarian. There's no job that's clear. Like if you're a nurse, if you're an accountant, definitely there's a clear career path. But because of that, you need to figure out, okay, what do you want to do? You don't need to do that your first year, but you need to start thinking about and considering what you're going to do with that degree. So another point is that you may only be exposed to certain career paths. But in this day and age, 2021, there are jobs that exist that, you could be a food stylist. You could be a YouTuber. You could be a bunch of different things. And you don't necessarily know what that career path is. You could be I had a student who was a digital art major, DART major. She liked designing and working with Adobe Illustrator and things like that. She's a project manager for a design company. So she had an idea of she was going to, be artistic with her degree, but she wound up being a program manager. So it's not necessarily what you think your job is going to be when you're in college is going to be the reality. And it's exciting because you don't know, and you should prepare yourself for any possibility. So that was a long answer. I will be giving you long answers because
people needed to hear that, because that's one thing for me. I would say I didn't know until I graduated is that what I was going to school for wasn't necessarily what I was going to get a job in. And newsflash, that wasn't even, I mean, it was humanities with the concentration in communication. So of course I can utilize that anywhere with public speaking and everything. But I did not go into that area when I graduated. My first job was in human resources, right? And a lot of people don't realize that just because you go to school for something doesn't necessarily mean that when you graduate, you're going to get a job in that area. When I was going to school, you get a job wherever you can get a job, right? That was typically how it went. And then if you can get into the field that you were majoring in, that would be great. But sometimes there's so many different opportunities for you that you're not even aware of. And once you're thrown into something, you realize that there might be a different path for you to take. So that's always something to really think about, is to really think outside of the box, but know that whatever you learned, it can always be utilized in some capacity.
Yeah. And can I just add one more point? So unfortunately, the statistic is that, it's about 30% of students graduate into positions that actually need a college degree. And the reason that is basically they're underemployed. Like when you graduate, because as you mentioned, you graduate and you get whatever job that's available, especially in this economy in this day and age. But the reason that is most of the time is because the students, when they were in college, didn't think through, okay, make a strategic plan about what do I want to do with my degree? What is my plan for getting that job? So that is so important. And they don't necessarily teach you that in your economics class, in your biology class, in your history classes. So that's, like I said, why I got into this business, is because I want to tell students the real deal about what it really takes to be successful in college.
Right.
Because, colleges aren't necessarily in the business of getting you a job. There's a career services office, but that's not their main focus. Their main focus is, their academic disciplines, their PhDs, and their administrators running the college business. Their business is not necessarily to find you a job. That's your job, or my job if you're working with me.
Absolutely. I will definitely agree with you on that. And it's unfortunate, but the world is lucky to have people like us to be able to help them along the way and to guide them, but like I said, it's still not a waste of money, and it's still not a waste of your time, because you can do so much with what you learned after. You just have to have the right guidance and direction in order to really get there. And nowadays with this generation, entrepreneurship is huge, right? So just because you get a major in something, you may not get your first job in that area. You can still start your own business eventually down the line in the field that you were going to school for. So that's just something also to take away, everyone. And so the next question is, how do you decide if your degree is going to serve you after graduating?
Okay, so this question is complicated because you can't decide whether your degree is going to serve you after you graduate. And so I'm going to break it down with regard to your major, and like kind of what we were talking about before, what your academic major is. If it's a specific accounting, physical therapy, nursing, like those jobs, if you do the research, especially in this day and age, healthcare jobs are definitely going to be in demand. What your job is as a student is to figure out what the skills that are necessary, skills that you're good at, skills that you want to develop, skills that you want to learn that are complementary to your major or interest level. And then you also need to do some research on what the career and market trends are going to be. Like, for example, no one could have predicted that the global pandemic was going to happen, and hospitality and tourism is not a good industry to be in. But there are government agencies and companies that do predictions on, I saw a list today, skills that are in demand for 2021. So there are definitely, you can work with me, you can do your research on your own and figure out what the skills are. So if you are a computer science major, that's a good major, because those are specific skills that you're going to learn. However, what you learn in your undergraduate classroom is not necessarily what they're actually using in the corporate environment.
Right.
So in addition to what you're learning in your classroom, you need to figure out what programming language, what additional data analysis or artificial technology, like what additional skills, like if you're interested in that, definitely pursue what is current and what is going to be a trend and going to be an employable job in the future. So that is the way I would answer that question. So you can't predict what is going to be in demand, but you can do some research and work with your career center, talk to the faculty at your school, to ask them what the people who graduated before you, what types of jobs they were into. Talk to your upperclassmen in your major about, what they are planning to do after graduation. So doing that research is both doing it on the computer, talking to people. If you have an alumni office at your school, which everybody does, or even on LinkedIn, you can do your own research about what the people who graduate from my school with my degree, what have they done? So that's the way I would answer that question.
Right. And I would definitely recommend utilizing the alumni office. A lot of times that office is overlooked and it's not marketed really well until students graduate, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that was actually my second job in higher ed and when I was actually an undergrad. And I learned so much about working in the alumni office / institutional advancement, even when it came down to the importance of the funding and how
Mm-hmm.
campus can actually build. But what we did was we had programs to connect current students with alumni, and it was like pretty much a mentorship program, right? And that's what a lot of schools do have, is to be able to guide students from the very beginning according to their major typically to where they want to go and to actually help them get there. And I honestly, that really can help you with internships, with already having a job lined up for you,
Mm-hmm.
because you already have someone that's pretty much vouching for you, saying, hey, I've been working with this person and they are ready for a job once they graduate. You may not even have to wait until you graduate. You may actually be able to start just being able to do a few hours while you're currently enrolled in school. So definitely being able to utilize your alumni office, and you have to put yourself out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, you have to really, it's not just about taking classes. It's far beyond that.
Definitely.
You have to really hustle. There's no other way to really put it, but you have to really hustle and you have to network. Right. And you have to just really put yourself out there. And sometimes it's hard for people if they have a pride issue or if they're afraid to ask for help and guidance. But I'm going to tell you now, don't be afraid. Ask for the help, because it just kind of takes some things off your list, and so that you can worry about other stuff. And networking is just so, like people are saying, networking is everything. Right? Like we're doing this right now. Phoenix and I met on a website, well, Facebook, right, in a group. And what we did, we networked. So I have her on, right? And what everyone else is doing is they're watching. So hopefully you're taking things away, but also you're reaching out to her for help if you're currently enrolled in school. And I can tell you, I'm not even going to say who it is, but I know one person that is on here now that I am working with that can definitely use your assistance. So hopefully they are listening and they will reach out to you for that extra help for life after graduating.
And I just wanted to give a shout out to King David and his post, a 5-minute conversation can change your life. Definitely. If hashtag that, definitely. Thank you. So just, it's so important what you just said about networking, because especially in this day and age, they're finding recently that, people who, when you send your resume into these data applicant tracking systems, or, you send your resume in and you don't get a response, people are getting jobs. Over 80% of people are getting jobs because of their network, who they know. Someone who knows someone who can recommend you for the position. So that 5-minute conversation, that network, to help you to figure out, oh, you're interested in this, tell everybody what you want to do. Tell everybody, tell your mama, tell your daddy, tell your uncle, tell everybody what you are interested in, because you never know who they know and what connections they may have that will help you.
Right. And I was always told I've always told, and I had to learn it this way, it's not what you know, but it's who you know. And how I got my first job straight out of college was someone that I knew. So you have to use your resources, like you said, your family, your friends, social media, Instagram. Might I say Clubhouse? It can be a little different at times. That's a perfect way to network because you can choose different categories for what you're interested in, and they have all these different chats about different topics. You can join that conversation. You can talk, you can just listen, but you can also follow the people because they have a profile. And that's really an easy way. You don't have to leave your room or where you are at to connect with someone, but you got to put the work in because it's not just going to come to you and it's not going to be handed to you. You have to work hard for what you want. And it can happen. Nothing in this world is impossible. You just have to really work very hard for it.
Yeah.
And yes, LinkedIn,
Yes.
for sure. That's a great way to network as well. And especially employers are looking at your profiles.
And recruiters. Yeah.
And recruiters. So that's definitely something. If you don't have a page, you definitely want to create one and put your information on there and make sure that, you always remain professional, because even when you step out the door, because you don't know who is watching you and you don't know who is who. The person that you may cut off in the car could be, the director for your new job. And it's funny because that I have to tell you really quick before we get back to it. That actually happened to me with my last job. I had an interview and I pulled into the spot, and then a lady pulled in next to me, but she pulled in so close, I couldn't even open my door. So I'm from New York. I could be a little snippety at times, right? And I was looking at her like, are you serious? Are you just going to block me in to where I have to crawl to the passenger side to get out? And she looked at me. She rolled her window down and she said, oh, I'm too close, aren't I? And I was like, just a tad bit. So she pulled back out, moved over, and guess what? She was the director that was interviewing me. So when we got into the interview room, we looked at each other and we just started laughing. I was like, thank God. I did not go off on this lady because
exactly.
I wouldn't even had the job. So you have to always just be mindful and just represent yourself in the best way everywhere you go, no matter where it is.
And just to add to that, people on campus, if you are on campus, people are looking at you. People are watching you, what you do, how you act, your behavior. And, your professor, like I'll tell a story too, since you told the story.
Right.
My professor in I was an English major undergrad after being undecided. Mm-hmm. I was taking an environmental science class as an elective just because. I don't know why. No interest in environmental science, but I was taking this class as an elective, and the professor of that class recommended me for an internship. The internship was, I went to Morgan State University, HBCU, in Baltimore. So the internship was me, part of the time I was working for the Baltimore Urban League. The other part of the time I was working for the Chesapeake Bay Foundation. I got to go out on a boat and work with high school students, like on the Baltimore Harbor, touring the harbor. We did some science experiments on the water. So like that, just because I was a good student in the class, like I said, I had no interest in that. But because I was a good student, because I was punctual, because I got good grades, that professor recommended me for this great internship that I had on my resume. And, it was a success for me. So definitely networking.
Networking is the key. You don't take anything away from this live. Networking is the key. And yes, my mother is on there. She said talking to seniors who have a wealth of knowledge. Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
Definitely
hear their stories. Listen to their stories.
And not just seniors in college. I don't want to. Let me reframe this, right? Older people.
Experienced adults.
Right? Experienced adults. Talk to them, because I'm going to tell you something. My mother was a biology major. Now you can correct me if I'm wrong, Mom, but she was a biology major, right? And initially she was going to be a doctor, but back then it wasn't going to happen for a lot of African Americans, right? So she ended up changing that to history. She taught at a college. Okay, I got it right so far. Okay, great. She taught at a college, did some retail, ended up working at the health department, right? In the field. My mother ended up being an epidemiologist. That wasn't her path, right? And then she ended up doing architectural work. That wasn't her path. Then she ended up actually designing clinics. Then she ended up being a first responder for the mayor. And then that's kind of when she retired, because she's a 9/11 responder and survivor. But
Thank you, Miss Brown.
yes, thank you. Her wealth of knowledge and all the different avenues that she took to get to where she was, she didn't think that. Like I said, she was going to school for one thing, had to change for another thing, ended up doing something completely different. But I learned from her, because sometimes I kind of beat myself up. I'm like, wait a minute, I went to school for communications. I've been working in higher ed for 15 years now, right? And then on the side that I didn't think I was going to do, I said, oh, I want to do residence life. You know, I want to do work with the organizations. I didn't want to do anything academic. Newsflash, I'm doing nothing but academic related stuff. So you really have to just hear other people's stories, because you just don't really, you don't know where, I don't want to say God, because everybody may not believe in God that's on here, but you just don't know where the higher up who you believe in is going to direct you.
Exactly. And just to add to that, like I said, I came into college undecided. Same as you. I just came in undecided, decided to be an English major, and I was not going to be a teacher. 20 years in education later.
And you call yourself the college what?
Success professor.
College success professor. Look at the name, y'all. Look at the name. She had no vision of that. And look at what she calls herself now. You see? You gotta open up to the experience, right? Yep. Gotta open up to the experience. So my next question is, during what year in college should you start to think about life after graduating? And that includes jobs, graduate school. Like, when should you start to think about that?
I'm going to ask the people in the chat, what do you think my answer is going to be? What year in college should you start thinking about your future? What do you think I'm going to say?
Let's see.
Am I going to say your freshman year? Am I going to say, yes, I am going to say your freshman year. Even if you're not in college, you should be thinking about it now.
When the loan pays off.
You need the job to pay the loan. You only get a 6-month grace period. You only get a 6-month grace period after you graduate or stop attending.
Only 6 months.
Yeah, 6 months.
People.
So you need to have the plan in place before you start. Yes. You should, wherever you are in the process, if you have not started, you should be starting now. And that is talking to people, talking to alumni, talking to current students, even if you haven't graduated. I mean, if you haven't, started school yet, the admissions office is still in the recruiting process. So if you ask, can I talk to alumni who are in my program to see what they're doing? Start doing that now. Like I said, your mom, your cousin, if you know people in the fields that you think you're interested in, start talking to them now. Like I said, make a news show, have a YouTube channel, tell everybody what your interest is, get a LinkedIn, like go all through any avenue, all avenues possible. You should start thinking about it and planning for it. Because as we just discussed, what your plans are now may change. And so you need to expose yourself to all the possibilities that may be for you.
And when you mentioned YouTube, I thought about King David. I didn't know what his name was, and I forgot. King David. He did just that. He has a YouTube channel, and he does school counseling, right? Mm-hmm. But he's putting himself out there by doing the YouTube channel. I have to really tell you, because we all know that YouTube is a very big platform, mm-hmm. and he's really marketing himself really, really well by doing videos and posting them on YouTube to talk about education, focusing on mental health, you know, getting the help while you're in college. I mean, more so in high school to help you so that you can be successful and complete. So I definitely want to just shout out David really quick for that, because he's definitely a perfect example of someone. I'm not putting his business out there, but someone that has had a lot of challenges and barriers and have overcome them, but he was determined. And he may have not necessarily had a game plan
Mm-hmm.
what he was going to do when he finished high school, heck, just to get out of high school, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he made it work for him, and he's doing really, really well. And I've known him since he was a young boy. Now he's a grown man. So I have to definitely shout David out for that.
Can I just add before you move on?
Yes.
YouTube, podcast, blog, all of that. David, you are on the right track because you are a student, but you are also a brand. So that is one of the things that I teach people. Even when you are applying to colleges, you are presenting yourself as a brand. You may think of it
Right.
as a business term, but you yourself are a brand. So if David, we'll just call him David. If
Right.
David is making himself known as a leader or an expert in education, then that will be, you know, when employers are looking up him, if they see his YouTube page, oh, look at this podcast, blog. If you have an interest, if you know that you would like to be known for something, definitely that will contribute to your brand. So definitely podcast, blog, YouTube channel. That is
Right.
definitely something that I advocate and recommend.
Right. And this is definitely your personal branding.
Yeah.
You know, and what makes you different from other people. And it's really even like having your elevator pitch, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
You can take that and apply it. It's not just business related, but it's who you are as an individual in general.
Thanks, Miss Brown.
Thank you. I know that I'm not, but well, maybe
Yes, you are.
out here, because the news anchors out here in the DMV area, ooh, I never seen anything like it compared to New York. Ooh, they need some help, but that's a whole nother live. So we know, okay, your freshman year, you start to think about it, but when do you really start to think about, let's say, even graduate school? Do you wait until your senior year in college and say, okay, I guess I'll continue because maybe I'll make more money with a higher degree? What are your thoughts?
No, don't do that. That's not a good plan. So I'm all about research and facts.
Mm-hmm.
So no, you should not wait until your senior year to do anything at all, ever. But if you are interested in a graduate program, you need to start the research for that program. If you likely want to be in a research program that's well known, has good professors. So you need freshmen now it's not
Right.
Now is a good time. So you need to, if you know what you want to if you know what you want to go to graduate school for, if it's law school, what's the top, they have those lists, what's the top law school. So you need to do that research now. You need to start thinking about how you're going to pay for it, because that's another expense.
Mm-hmm.
And you also need to know, if it's not law school or medical school, if it's a real requirement in order for you to get the job or position that you want. Because too often people are going to grad school just because they don't know what else to do. And that is never a good idea. So you're investing additional money, but you don't know if the position that you are going to grad school for requires a master's degree. You don't know if there are actually jobs in that field. Because one of the things that people don't know is that, I have a student who wants to be a college professor. Her major is good, but there are college professors with PhDs. They're Dr. Brown, Dr. Fraser, but they can't get a full-time position at a university because their field of interest is saturated. They're not hiring, they're not looking, they're not in demand. So you need to figure out if what you're looking for is in demand and if you really need a degree to do what you want. If that is the case, do the research on what are the schools that I need to get into, what are the requirements, what are they looking for. One of the things that we tell students who are interested in going to medical school, who may think that you have to be a biology major, that's not the case. You have to take specific classes so you can be a political science major and go to medical school if you take these specific classes. So see what the requirements are, and importantly, how are you going to pay for it?
Right. You got to do the research first. You just can't jump in and say, okay, I'm going to grad school. And like you said, the job that you want, or even the job offer that you have, may not require that. Now, there are some, I've had some students where they said, look, my job says that in order for me to keep my job, I have to get my master's.
Right.
Or in order for me to get a pay increase, I have to get my master's. I have to get my PhD. It just depends on, what job they have. That's a different situation.
Yeah. And
right?
Are they going to pay for it? Is the company going to pay for it? If so, then
that's another thing.
Go.
Because I've had it where students started grad school, stopped, and then they're dealing with the pressure now because they stopped. They have a time frame, 12 months, a year. Well, they can't do 10 classes in a year.
Yeah.
Right. And so now it's like, oh my God, what do I do? My job is in the line. Right. So this is why you have to really plan well in advance and don't wait for the last minute, because so many things can really go downhill if you don't really have a strategic plan. And I just want to shout out, when we mention professors and PhD, we have Dr. Williams on here with us, and she teaches at quite a few schools. So I'm not even going to break down the list. Okay. But she is graduated with her undergrad from NYU, and they got her master's and PhD from George Washington University.
I went to GW.
Yes. So we have some very, very smart and hardworking, dedicated higher ed professionals on this live with us tonight. I just have to say that. And so my next question is, since we're talking about jobs, before we can get the job, tell us about internships. What does that look like for a student? When should you start to look for internships?
In the chat now. So if you are not in college yet, then no. Well, actually, I had an internship before I started my first year in college. It was through a program called En-ROADS, which I believe still exists, and it's for students of color. So Google that. But yeah, now if there is a possibility for
what is it called again?
En-ROADS, INROADS. It's a national program. There's definitely one in Maryland. But yeah, now I would still say now. So to get internships, if you're in college, definitely different schools do it differently, but definitely use the resources at the university. Like I said before, I got an internship because a faculty member recommended me for the internship. Your career services office likely has their own internal system for applying to and getting internships. You can also search on your own. Like if you have a company, like your dream company, like if you're in California and you want, I was just watching the movie Intern about Google. I think that was the name of it. They have an internship. Like many companies have internship programs. If you have a specific company in mind, definitely that's one way to do it. Also, there's a organization company called Handshake. Like Handshake, you're shaking a hand. That is whether you're a student in college or not, that's a platform where employers post internships, for college students. And then another opportunity that I became aware of is a company called Parker Dewey, ParkerDewey. And what that company does is provide micro internships. So they have big companies, Google, Pepsi-Cola, Microsoft. They have companies that work with them and they do project-based internships, micro internships. So they'll submit a project that they would like someone to work on. And you apply like a regular job. And if you're accepted, then you are able to work on that project. It's completely virtual. And you can put that on your resume. So there are a lot of different options and opportunities for people to start, because as much experience as you can possibly get, as much diverse experience as you can possibly get will serve you in the long run, be it your resume and for you to get clarity on what you really want. So I would say try corporations, try nonprofits, try volunteers, try student organizations, try on-campus offices. Do as much as you can while you are not responsible for student loans and other things. so that you will be in a good position when you are responsible for student loans and other things.
And I think you said it, clarity. This is piggybacking off of a lot of things that we've been talking about since 7 o'clock. A lot of times you enroll into a program that you think you want to do. Like for me, example, when I was little, I always wanted to be a neonatal nurse. I don't really even know where that came from, right?
Because babies are cute.
That's probably why. And that's something I always wanted to do. But then when I realized I had to work with sick babies too, I said, that's not for me, right? But I'm glad that I was actually able to figure that out before college came and I enrolled into that program, right? She's laughing. Because I would have been disappointed that I would have spent my money on a program, had no hands-on experience at all, and then graduate and then hopefully get a job in that field to then say, this is not what I wanted to do. Teaching is another example. Everyone wants to teach, K through 12. Everyone thinks, oh, the little kids, they're so cute, it's easy. Not the case. I can tell you, I know people that, I don't want to say hated, strong word, but they are not cut for it. Or the type of school system that you're in. Are you in a you know, are you working with children that are underserved, right? That's a completely different level. That's something completely different, because you have to understand the type of environment that the children are coming from, which can then affect their behavior, their learning, all these different things. So to really help with that, even though you have to do do your teaching, during college is a little bit different. You need to have the hands-on experience in advance, right? To get a feel of what exactly you want to do, and in different areas, right? Because you may say, I want to work in a school, K through 12, but what exactly? Do you want to be on the admin side? Do you want to do policies and procedures? Do you want to do observation? Do you want to actually be a teacher, a teacher's aide? There's so many different positions that you can have. So in order to get a feel of it, to see what is really you got to start trying it. You have to start doing it.
Yep.
And if you start your freshman year, honestly, you don't have to wait until then, because so many colleges now have summer programs for high school.
Exactly.
You enroll into the summer program, and a lot of them even are project based. So that really allows you the opportunity to, one, tour the campus, see if it's the right fit for you, the different type of people, the environment, the weather, everything. And then you actually are able to say, okay, I like this, or I don't like this. Based upon this project, this is what I'm going to be learning. This is not what I thought, right? So that allows you the opportunity. So you don't necessarily even have to wait until your freshman year, but you can actually start while you're in high school. And you can't rely on career services. And most schools, most 4 years, I would rather say they're a little weak. They are a little weak.
They're underfunded, probably. Understaffed.
So as a result, you're going to get but that much. I know for me, I love the college that I graduated from, I have to tell you. But the career services department was horrible, even when it really came to reviewing resumes. So I couldn't depend on them for that. So that's where, once again, my networking and asking people to help me, that really kind of came into play. But you have to do the research. So, and even if you do have a great career services department, you can't just depend on them to find the jobs for you. This is part of adulting, right? Is doing the research. So that's one thing that you'll definitely have to do. So we know freshman year, and even if you're a sophomore now, start now.
Yes, start now. That's
if you're
hashtag
a senior,
start now.
Start now.
Start
it's
now.
It's never too late.
Nope.
Well, but right, you can always. You just got to do more if you wait longer. So the next thing is, we know when we should start applying for internships. And that's our freshman year. So the next thing is should we be joining academic and social clubs, and why?
Yes, you should be joining social and academic clubs as well as gaining um, leadership positions in those organizations and clubs. Because when I mentioned earlier, there was a post about the top skills that employers are looking for. Leadership was number one. So maybe you have to work because you have to, you have to work a job that won't necessarily look good on the resume for the position that you want. If you are able to demonstrate and communicate how you have developed certain skills that they're looking for, like leadership, like problem solving, like working with teams, things like that, as a leader in a student organization, or if you start a student organization, that will show you some additional skills. And even like we mentioned before, starting a YouTube channel, starting a podcast, starting a blog, those will allow you to or enable you to develop skills. One of the students who worked for me, and I think you mentioned entrepreneurship as one of the things which would also be, and I agree, which would be beneficial for you. He came into freshman year, he came into college with his own social media videography company. I hired him because, I like to snatch up the good talent. He worked on campus in my office, and when he graduated this May, he was one of the few students who I know was able to secure a job in this pandemic because he had that entrepreneurship experience, and he was a business major. It was all related. He had a plan. He had a plan, and he was successful with implementing his plan even during a global pandemic. So he worked for me. He had some other jobs, and he had his own business. So like you said, hashtag hustle. He was a hustler, and that hustle wound up paying off for him in the long run. So it's so important for you to be able to get the experience, get the skills, get the information, all that you can, so that when you are able to graduate, you can position yourself to do a variety of different things. And having a plan A, B, C, D, E, and F, especially in this day and age, because you don't know which one is going to work, is going to be to your advantage.
Right. So if I got you correctly, everybody that's on this call, I think everybody's kind of college graduates at this point, for the most part, but spread the word. Internships, freshman year, and if they are already past that year, immediately, like the very next day, get a plan, enroll into some academic or social organization, even Greek.
Mm-hmm.
People don't understand how powerful
that network
can be. And so I say that to say, if you are that type of individual, for the sisterly bond or the brotherly bond, regardless on if it's a divine line or not, join, because that will help you with networking. And I know that's why a lot of people also go to HBCUs. Also, is that networking experience they're strong, very strong on that. And I'm not telling anybody on here to go to an HBCU.
I am
saying. Well, she's telling everybody to go to Morgan State University.
No, go to an HBCU. They have higher success rates than PWIs for students who are like us. It's research. It's true. If you can afford it, go. If you can afford it, go.
Right. So, and it's not for everyone. I started off at an HBCU, Virginia State University, but it wasn't for me. And I only say that only because I was used to being in a small school my entire life, right? So here I am venturing off, going to this huge school. I didn't do any research or anything. So that was the other problem. And my mom just let me make the decisions on my own, right?
She's laughing at you right now.
I'm sure she is. I know she has a lot to say, but it wasn't for me because it was just, I was overwhelmed, right? I was overwhelmed. Even just trying to find my class, I'm like, oh my goodness, wait. This campus is so huge. So when I transferred to my other school, I'm like, man, this campus is so small, right? Everybody literally knew everyone. But definitely, regardless on what school you go to, if you can get to HBCU, definitely do that. definitely try to do in-state. It'll be a little, cheaper than going out state if you can.
Mm-hmm.
But networking, that's going to help you. And then also trying to join clubs that are focused around your major. I think also helps because you don't know what type of networking that they may have with different companies. So that's definitely something that I would recommend that you do. And so after we've done the internships and we've done the networking, joining the clubs and the organizations, how do we set a clear plan to reach our goals for the phase after college?
All right, so I went in my
That's
library for this one. All right, so let me turn around and get the book that I'm going to recommend. All right, so this book, let's see, it's going to be reversed, but it's called Design Your Life. It's written by two Stanford professors. There's also a workbook. As you can see, I have been in it and taking notes, in part because I'm working on a class that I'm going to be teaching at my school. But the concept, get that book from the library or wherever. What the concept for that book is that, and it's a class, like I said, that they teach at Stanford, is that, kind of what we're saying, there are multiple paths that your life can go in. And as we have been saying throughout this entire hour, it is a good idea for you to plan, but your plan A may not succeed. So the design behind this, and it's based on design thinking, which is an engineering way of solving problems and coming up with innovative things, but it can also be applied to your life. So it asks you to come up with different options or opportunities, whether you're going to, like, say you go to college and you want to be a communications major because you want to be a broadcast journalist. So you create a plan for that. Say that plan is not possible anymore. Say you won the lottery for $1 billion. What would you really want to do? So it has you create and think through, like, what are the plans that could be possible for your life? And it takes you through the process of, okay, how can you make this actually happen? Like, who do you need to talk to? What do you need to do? All of that. So that's why I say I would recommend either the workbook, which is cheaper probably, or the book. But you can, I have a library card. You should also have a library card. Try the book. Don't give Amazon all your money. Try the book and read the book, skim through the book, and create a plan. Create multiple plans for the possibilities in your life. That's what I would suggest.
So what would you suggest if that book wasn't out? How do people create a plan?
How do you create a plan? What we've been talking about the whole time. So one of the things that I was going to reference when you were talking about career services, one of the things that too often people don't realize until they're out of college is all the free resources that they didn't use when they were in college that they would now have to pay for as an adult. So most colleges, my college, has an assessment, a career assessment that you can take, and it'll give you, based off of your answers to various questions, the types of jobs that would be appropriate and good for you based off of the questions. It's not the blueprint for your life. Don't take the assessment and be like, oh, I'm going to be blah. No, it'll give you some options. That's where you start. Do some research on, how much does that pay? Is that really something that you think you would be good at? Is that something that you would be interested in? Talk to people who actually do it. So I would create a plan. I would pick maybe 5 of those, or if I had my own ideas of what I want it to be, do some research on, say you have 10 choices. Do research on all of those choices, because you never know, and you may wind up not doing any of those, but you have an idea of what you may do. So do internships, interview people, talk to alumni, do volunteer opportunities, start an organization, YouTube, podcast, blog, do everything. I know it's not possible to do everything, but do something. Do something.
It's
I
possible.
recommended.
It's possible.
Do something I'm recommending to you, please, so that you can get your life together and not be struggling in the streets after graduation, as many students are. So that would be my recommendation. Come up with a plan and a strategy be in pursuit of some goal, because that'll drive you when you have those difficult classes and you're studying for midterm at 2:00 in the morning. You wonder what you're doing with your life. It'll drive you because you're pursuing something that you are really trying to get to.
Right.
So that's what would be my answer.
Okay. Well, the professor has said it all. She has given you more than a few nuggets to take away to get your life together. Whether you are currently in college now, whether you have a child that you know is going to be going into college and it's not optional, you have more than enough time to help them create a plan early, right? Not necessarily create the plan for them. Heck, there's some parents that will create the plan for you. There are some parents that will tell you what college you're going to. There are some parents that tell you what your major is going to be.
That is true.
I can't speak on that. However, you have to get started. You just cannot wait because you stress afterwards. You start to panic. And then you start to say, I got all these degrees, but what do I do next?
Mm-hmm.
And it will happen because you may go into that field and just don't like the work that you do. But you have to have a plan because you can actually really avoid that if you start early and have that hands-on experience, which is just going to eliminate so much. Because if you need to change your major, well, you're not going to change it your junior or your last year. I've seen people do it, and you're just in school longer, and then what?
More money.
Right? So have a plan, get with the internships. If you need help with that, I did write down the different resources that she provided, and also reach out to Phoenix. She's amazing, you know, and great sense of humor, a go-getter, and a goal getter. That's the key, goals. And ask her for help, whether you do a consultation, whatever it is. I know she has some free resources on her website that you can also download. I definitely recommend that. Can you tell them really quick about that?
Sure. I have several. So which one? So my website
strategy.
Okay. So yeah. Okay. So the website is collegesuccessprofessor.com. www.collegesuccessprofessor.com. So I created several resources because I also have a YouTube channel, and I wanted people to have like handouts or resources to work through. So one of the resources is called the add drop strategy, I think, and that helps you to figure out whether or not and how to figure out whether you need to add or drop a class. Because as we talked about earlier, you know, when you are taking classes, those classes are worth credits. And there's a certain point in the semester where you can't, you like kind of exchange the credits and take another class. So it's a strategy for how to figure that out. There was another one. I think there's a time tracking one. So one of the things that students often struggle with in college is the time management. Whether you're an adult student or, you know, everybody still struggles with time management, but that's one of the things that students struggle with. So it's a time management tracking system. And there is another one, but I don't remember what it is. But check out the website. There are a bunch of free resources for you, and I'll be developing more. They're in the works.
Right. And I do have the add drop.
Okay.
So does anyone have any questions for myself or for the professor? That's her name. I'm just calling her the professor. Does anyone have any questions at all? And if you can't think of anything now, you can definitely reach out to her, and she'll be more than happy to connect with you and help you, your friends, your family, people in your community, whoever it is, because we want to be able to spread this news so that we can really be able to increase the academic achievement in our communities. It's very, very important to complete and to graduate. That is my ultimate goal for everyone that I come in contact with.
Exactly.
So, I'm just going to check really quick to see if anyone had any questions throughout. Someone did mention about having someone review your resume. I would definitely say that you have your career services department for that. They can definitely assist you with reviewing the resume. And it also depends on the class. Like for me, because my specialization was communications, we did a lot of resume writing, memos and everything. And my instructor for that class actually typically reviewed that for us. So you just have to learn how to really use your resources. And colleges, whether it's a 2-year or 4-year, have a lot of resources. You just have to utilize it. Like Phoenix said, don't wait until you graduate to then say, oh, the school that I went to has this. No, utilize it while you're currently enrolled because it can really help you go a long way. And I don't see anything else. Nope, I don't see anything.
Okay.
Well, Phoenix, it was great.
It
I
was.
thoroughly enjoyed this. I took a lot of things away from this, and we definitely have to get back on here. We'll chat offline to talk about what the next topic can be, because
Great.
you cover so much that people really need your help, and sometimes they may not be able to pay for services. So
Yeah.
being able just to give those few little nuggets really helps, because that's another thing that I see is people can't pay for that extra help.
Yep. Yeah.
It's challenging. So a lot of times their education is put on hold because they're not getting the amount of help that they need while they're enrolled.
Yeah.
So and they can't afford to get it outside of school. So unfortunately they have to stop sometimes. But we're always here to help you.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it. Definitely happy to do it. It costs, like, I'm in business because some people need the help that you mentioned, but the information is out there, and I am definitely happy and willing to share it, in lives. That's why I have a YouTube channel. The information is free there, because the information, like you said, many people are in college, but the thing is that only 60% of them actually get to graduate in 6 years. They don't tell you that statistic when they're sending you that marketing information.
Of course not. They don't want to discourage you. Why would that happen, right? Okay, well, everyone, if you don't have any additional questions, we are going to be signing off. But Phoenix, one more time, tell them how they can reach you.
So you can find me online, College Success Professor, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. My website is www.collegesuccessprofessor.com. Definitely connect with me anywhere.
Right. And also what I'm going to do is I'm going to have her on in my bio as a link. So if you guys can't remember the college professor, which I don't know why you can't remember her, you can find her on my page, because I will have her link so you can go straight there. And for me, my website is www.educonfidence.com, and that's edu, the word confidence.com. And we are here, both of us, to help you navigate through the college admissions process and navigate through college and graduate. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. Stay warm. It's cold out there, depending on where you are. And have a great evening, everybody.
I'm trying to do a screenshot.
Oh.
I forgot to do it. Okay, thanks.
All righty.
Bye.
Well, I'll be chatting with you soon. And thank you so much for joining me this evening.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Goodbye.
Bye.